Well, hello. Welcome back. Step outside and let's jump right into it because you have joined in on the podcast, whatever this thing is, where I get to finally answer a question. I've got a question related to a video, the last video I had posted about Shavasana. And in this video, I'm not only going to answer that one, but I'm also going to read another one of those Reddit thingamabobs stories and kind of give you my insight and commentary and hopefully sprinkle in a couple lessons along the way. My name is Dominic Napa, otherwise known online as the Concrete Yogi, and this is the whatever you want to call it podcast. Still haven't come up with that, but the question comes from Vivid Note, and she asked this because it was a part of her circle. Someone in her circle had been going to a place, or actually, I think they led the class. They had led the class where people had been gathering to overcome some kind of trauma that they had suffered in their past. And in a group setting, this is where she realized that some of the people were uncomfortable closing their eyes in Shavasana. So the question that Vivid Note had was if it was something that was okay to overcome, okay to kind of leave out the closing of the eyes. Because I think I kind of blanketed over the entire theme of Shavasana as laying flat with your eyes closed. And that's my mistake because that's not necessary. That's not necessarily what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be eyes closed laying down. Shavasana, that point of integration at the end of the practice, yes, it's nice to relax back in a reclined position, absolutely. But really what we're looking for is that integrated state of mind, that allowance of the meditative focus that you've been using to kind of seep in, to settle in, and to really affect us at the highest level. So that could be done in a seated position. That could be done completely seated, sitting up tall, eyes wide open, with a drishti, of course. You could practice something like Trataka, perfectly acceptable meditative practice, and it's not going to involve a lot of fidgeting or twitching or wiping, scratching, itching, and it's not going to disturb the people around you. So there are other ways to just not even lay down and close your eyes. You could just be sitting up and having your eyes open and still enjoy the exact same state that you would otherwise. I just realized I have not talked about my background today. I went with the bare tree on one side and then like the viney covered tree on the other side today. Really like that one. It's kind of like overgrown and it's hot outside. That part is real. So I'm sweaty. I'm a sweaty person. I sweat a lot. Okay, back to it. So Shavasana, you don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to lay down. Now that we've said that, it is nice to have someone, if they are healing from something traumatic, to have them kind of understand that they're in a safe space, that they're in a place where they should feel comfortable, they should feel protected, and that should allow them to, maybe at first, it's not just sitting up with their eyes open, maybe it is then laying down with their eyes open. And then maybe they sit up with their eyes closed. And then eventually, finally, and this was something that Vivid Note had relayed in the question, was one of the people, when they eventually are able to close their eyes in Shavasana, it's something that the community can kind of rally behind. They know that that is an overcoming of some kind of obstacle that had been keeping them from enjoying that state of just peace and tranquility to the fullest without feeling some kind of defensive reaction or allowing that traumatic incident to remove something that could be a beautiful, peace-inducing state. So, hope that answered the question. How can we do that? How can we get that person to know, not just that they're in a safe and comfortable place, but know the benefits of eventually making it there? Is it something that we're going to push on them or rush them to? No, but it's going to come from knowledge. It's going to be able to be expressed to them through the knowledge of the actual understanding that they themselves should be able to go into those states with. It's not just sit still and hold your eyes still. It's also what your mind is doing. And that becomes 99% of the practice, watching what the mind's doing, how it's reacting, and being able to kind of take a step back. So in a lot of the opportunities that we have when we're working with people that have overcome traumas, people that are healing from traumas, we want them to know it's such a safe place that their meditative understanding can carry them into feeling that safe, that safety, that security, and then kind of ingraining it into them where the real healing starts. That's when the enough is enough part steps in, and the real healing game begins. So, not to downplay it and call it a game or say that that's going to be the absolute nitty gritty for them is that meditation. They might have a lot of other work to do, but I know for a fact that it can be a great instrument, a great tool, a great yantra for them to enjoy that practice it in its full capacity, in the full expression of it. So, do you have to close your eyes? No. To sum it up, no, of course not. But is it going to bring about more healing ability if you do progress and excel to that state where you can close your eyes? Absolutely. Could someone find those exact same states with their eyes open? Absolutely. That part is all going to come from the individual's understanding. And that's why we study and we teach to study. Not just teach, but also teach to ask questions and keep seeking. And if you have any questions from the thing I'm about to read, or any questions at all, or any stories you'd like to share, remember to send them in, purnayogashala@gmail.com, or you can leave them in a comment, or you can comment me. You can message me on Instagram or the school over there. All right, now we're going to get into today's Reddit thingy. I'm going to read this one nice and quick. We'll get through a couple big main points, and then I'll let you guys kind of contemplate on it. And I want to hear what your thoughts are too, because this one is very different than the last one. All right. The last one, can you take Shavasana out? Can you take that state of meditation out at the end of the practice? No, vehemently no. Even the guy himself, he was a practitioner. And if you remember, if you haven't seen the video, go and check it out. But if you remember, he says himself, I thought that was the biggest part of the practice. So even he knew, and he was just a practitioner, the teacher should definitely never take that out. This one is not like that. This one is kind of like my teacher does this, what do you think? And I think this about it. So let's find out what he thinks, what his teacher thinks, and then, if you even care what I think. All right. The name of it, the title of it, Warm-Ups and Vibes. Love my yoga teacher and studio. I've taken a few privates with her, and he puts in parentheses, me, I am a 57-year-old male. In classes, she usually has us building towards some sort of advanced pose, advanced in quotes, to work on for the last 10 minutes or so. Dolphin push-ups, etc. Okay. All right. So let's pause here really quick. So I love peak poses, advanced pose, whatever you want to call it. I love introducing them to students, and I love showing them that there is ways that they can work towards them. So I call them options in my class. And if you have you can stop at whatever option feels right for you. That way the person knows that they might not be able to do the full expression of the posture, but everyone in that room that is able to do the full expression, they at some point were doing one of these kind of prerequisite postures that will build towards it, preliminary postures that will build towards that advanced posture. So I love that idea of having advanced postures. He says, this is the thing I don't like. He says that they do it for the last 10 minutes. They work on it for the last 10 minutes. So, all right, let's backtrack, because he says he took privates with her. So I don't know if these are the private lessons he's referring to, or if these are the group lessons. I'm going to acknowledge them with both. Okay. He says he's 57. So at 57, if you're going to be trying advanced postures in a private setting, then yes, you can almost make it more of like a workshop kind of feel, where everything you're doing is building up towards that in very minute, subtle ways, so that in the last 10 minutes, it's kind of like, let's see if you got it or not. And if not, we'll get it in the next one. That private one-on-one practice is very, very different than working in a group. If you're working in a group, this is irresponsible, basically, because if you're not doing a posture that requires both hip and shoulder mobility, then everybody's going to be leaving with more shoulder mobility or more hip mobility, depending upon what the advanced pose was. Even if it's just them practicing the pose in the last 10 minutes. Example, splits. If they're not able to accomplish the splits, then that means that them even practicing splits is enough practice for them to practice splits. And I hope that made sense. But I'm just saying you don't need half splits. You wouldn't need standing splits. You wouldn't need Trikonasana. You wouldn't need Parsvottanasana. You wouldn't need Dande Madhava Pada Janu Shirsasana. You wouldn't need these standing postures where you're working on the hip hinge to open up your hamstring, because then you'd be doing that at the end anyway. Okay, so let's say it's not Hanumanasana. Let's say it's not an expansive posture. Let's say it's a strength-based posture. All right, well, now I have the entire class doing strength-based movements, even if it's subtle, even if it's just, very minute things to warm up for the upper body to do some kind of inversion, headstand, forearm stand, handstand, arm balance, something like that. That's too much. Even if it's very, very minute movements, 50 minutes is too much. There's no need for that because it's something you can do very targeted. You can do it very precisely, and you wouldn't need to include an entire group in things that some might not need the entire warm-up. Some might not even be close to the posture itself, so they would need much more than just the warm-up itself. They would need actual, strength gaining movements, strength gaining practices, not just kind of preparatory movements for that single posture. So I agree if it's in the private. I disagree if it's in a group. Also, depending upon what advanced posture you're teaching. Let's use that as an example. Let's say that the advanced posture that I'm teaching might be, let's say Titibhasana. Let's say it's Firefly. Okay, balancing on the hands, and it's like a straddle split where you're resting your inner thighs on your triceps. Very difficult posture. It requires both arm strength, shoulder mobility, hip mobility, core strength, even strength of the quads to be able to extend the leg out straight. So everything needs to be warmed. That is a posture that you do near the end of the practice. But everything is being warmed throughout the practice in a very balanced way. You can warm up the upper body a little bit, then go back to it later. You can warm up the low body a little bit, go back to it later. You can warm up a few postures in strength and a few postures in mobility. So by the time you get to the Titibhasana, the Firefly, you actually understand that it is a low to the ground posture, and it is something that requires the entire body to be warmed. So if it's that kind of a thing, 50 minutes, and then maybe not the last 10 minutes because you might eat into your Shavasana, but maybe the 45th to 50th minute, you throw it in there, so that in those last 10, you really get an opportunity to cool down. So even in a group setting, I would say that last 10 should be more utilized for cooling down than it would be in advanced posture, but there are exceptions. I know this is wise, he says. So we've built up heat and gotten our bodies ready for a challenge, but I can never get there in class. Then at home, rested and focused, I can often pop into the poses or at least get closer. And then in parentheses, mainly shoulder and headstands. Throw on the giant brakes here because we have some talking to do. All right. He first says he knows this is wide. We've got to build up the heat, get our body warm. Absolutely. We've got to get our bodies ready for a challenge. Absolutely. 50 minutes of it is not wise. And then he says, I can never get there in a class. I almost cussed. Obviously not. Obviously not. That's exhausting. I'm tired just thinking about 50 minutes of a warm-up. Honest to goodness. That's ridiculous. A warm-up should be 15 minutes, and then you can start throwing in, depending upon the posture, depending upon the group, depending upon the style of practice, you can start throwing in some more advanced stuff. But I can never get there in class. Then at home, rested and focused, I can often pop into these poses. Okay. Now this is my gripe with you, bro. Warm up. Do some kind of warm up. Don't just jump into them, or I hope there is some kind of warm up involved that he's just not mentioning. But he says, I often can just pop into these poses. So I got a feeling he's just putting his head down and throwing his legs up. Yeah, you might be able to do it, but is it safe? Is it secure? Is it sustainable for your body type, for longevity in your practice at your age? Those are the questions you have to think. Can we do something is different than should I do something? Remember that always in any posture, in any practice. Can I do this is way different than should I do this. I have a bad elbow right now, but can I do a handstand? Yeah. Should I do the handstand? No. My elbow's fine. Thanks for asking, guys. Everything's good. I feel like doing a handstand right now. Okay, then he says shoulder, mainly shoulder or headstands. You're 57. Why are you doing shoulder stands at home? What are you doing? There's not really a purpose for that posture at a certain age anymore. I guess there is a couple, but there's anatomical benefits that you could get from other postures, a combination of other postures where you wouldn't have to put such strain on your cervical spine and you wouldn't have to kind of risk the damage to your neck. Just even the risk, the opportunity for that injury or any kind of injury around the neck to happen should just be avoided. So there's no need, bro. No, stop. Don't do shoulder stands. Headstands, safe, secure, with a proper warm up. Sure, great benefits. Again, a lot of the benefits you could get in that shoulder stand without, having your neck at that angle. So please be mindful, be careful out there, guys. I know we see a lot of stuff on the social media era right now where people take the postures as the yoga, but we have to remember that there's a purpose for them. And if you're thinking that just doing them is practicing yoga, then you might be like this. You might just go home and hurt yourself thinking that you were going to be doing yoga, something that could bring you meditation, self-awareness, all the other stuff. All the other stuff. Not a complaint, just an observation. He says, I think I am, 1, kind of self-conscious in class when trying these, and 2, my body is just toast by the time we get to these postures. Yes, and yes. You don't want to be falling into other people. I don't know how packed the room is, but you don't even want to be falling in front of other people if you're just exhausted. You have to sit there and in your mind, you're like, damn, if I had a little bit more strength, if I had a little bit more energy, if I wasn't so sweaty, if I wasn't so fatigued, I think I would be able to try this, but I'm not going to try it now. That's so much thinking to do in a class where you should trust your body. You should trust the timing of the guidance by the teacher. That's such a huge thing with teachers nowadays, guys. We have to know that. If there's any teachers out there, remember that we have to know that, guys. We have to know they're trusting us to offer them the certain postures in the right timing. You're not going to get them right before Shavasana and have them do a forearm plank for 10 minutes. And I hear this stuff. I really do hear about these things where there's a teacher in front of a class kind of, goading her students into thinking that, you got to do this. You got to get up. You're stronger, and I love doing that in my class. But a forearm plank might be in the middle of the class, and it's definitely not something that's going to be 10 minutes eating up the class when there's other things that we could be doing that could be building that meditative focus, that could be allowing people to contemplate the stories, the songs, the mantras, the philosophy that deepens their practice truly, rather than just sitting there breathing heavily while, I don't know, Drake plays over the... Oh my God. I'm not making these stories up. I wish I was too. I really wish I have stories to tell you guys, but I'm going to go through Reddit first. We'll use this as a nice source to get a lot of stuff out of the way, get a lot of the air, just clean out the air, and then I'll tell you my stories and stories that have been shared to me in some of these yoga communities. Okay. Last thing he says here. And to that, my body is toast by the time we get to these poses. Of course it is. You're 57 years old. You're having someone teach you 50 minutes of a warm-up. Again, I'm tired. I am tired. I'm exhausted. I might take a nap. And then, you know what? No, I'm not going to, but I almost want to take a nap before I read this last part because I'm exhausted thinking about a 50-minute warm-up, 50-minute warm-up, 50 minutes. Although if it's shoulder stand that you've been requesting to do, maybe she just wants you so tired you're not even trying it by the end. Unless there's a whole room of other people doing it, then I guess, yeah, it's still dangerous. God, shoulder stand. I'm gonna do a video where I just kind of go through postures that it's okay, guys. It's okay. We don't have to do them. I can show you one pose that we don't have to do because I can show you then 3 poses that do the exact same thing. You don't have to spend as much time in them and they're so much safer and they build longevity. They don't have the opportunity to diminish our longevity. We do not want that. I mean, maybe you do. I don't. I want to have a nice, good posture. All right. On one other note, since I'm here, I'm a regular in the class, and a few of us get there early and to each other. Nod to each other, and nod to each other. Then warm up and sit in meditation, waiting for the class to begin. It's lovely. Oh my goodness. A dream scenario right there. Just read it, guys. Of all the stuff that we can read on this and all the, horror stories there might be out there or whatever. This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. This is what we're looking for. This is what we yearn for as when we look for Kula, when we look for community, when we look for that family type vibe. And it's felt in Purna. I know that I love my community so much, and I see how much they love each other, and they have that internalized respect for the practice, so they don't have to vocalize it when they see each other. They nod, good morning, how are you guys? A little stretch, a little warm up, sit, get ready for the practice. There might be a little bit like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while, and oh, it's good to see you, blah, blah, blah. Little stuff like that. It's so nice. It brings this beautiful, peaceful vibrance to the practice right before it starts. You see this collective, everybody's ready. Oh man, I'm so happy for you that you have that. That is a beautiful thing. But lately, a flock of ladies has decided to make the 15 minutes before class their loud, in parentheses, social time, wrecking the vibe. I suppose I take this as a challenge to my composure and ability to let all things go. Damn. I felt that. That hurt. That hurt almost as much as the tiredness that I was feeling from the 50-minute warm-up. This hurts. Damn. I am so sorry. If the guy that wrote this ever sees this, I'm sorry for you, bro. I'm sorry to you. Damn. It's the teacher. They gotta put a stop to it. Keep it outside, keep it out in the lobby. Keep it hushed, keep it quiet. Nobody's saying you can't catch up. That's a nice time. You get there together. You might be practicing best friends for life. Yeah, that might be a nice time to have a whispered conversation. Maybe, okay. Damn, they gotta read it. They gotta read the room. The teacher has to say something. I know I would, even if it's just like whoa, there's a lot of energy in here. We got something to do. We got somewhere to go. I don't know, but you can have that kind of little way to just call it out. They could also go over and, excuse me, guys, I'm so sorry. Not you to say it, or person that wrote this to say it, but yeah, you'd hope that the studio has some kind of, please keep a hushed tone before, the practice starts. Oh man, I'm sorry. You also don't know where they are in their practice. If they're brand new to the practice and they're just starting to get to it and they're just starting to figure it out, they got to learn. They got a learning curve. We all had a learning curve, and they might pick that up off of you guys. So you might be able to be kind of teachers to them for them to just understand the etiquette before a practice. It could be beautiful. It could be amazing to see people that have just come to the practice learn those new first baby steps into the class and then watch how that shifts them. That could be one option. Also, I would be really curious to see how they leave the room. Do they leave in a hush? Do they leave in a whisper? I myself have many students that come in the class 100 miles an hour. You got to slow them down. They settle in, and after the class, they leave and they whisper to people, and they walk slower and they move slower. It's beautiful, and that they carry that. They get to carry that experience, and that really can deeply affect them. So that's the other thing. How do they leave? Are they finding a respectful approach to the practice during it to the extent where they can actually experience something that they want to carry out of the room? Lots of questions there, but yeah, we should always be hopeful that the room before the practice is nice and quiet, nice and hushed, nice and kind of prepared for something a little bit more sacred. In a Pilates room, it's fine. In a Zumba class, it's fine. And that's unfortunately what yoga is being kind of compared to nowadays. They come in Rajastic. They come in turbulent. We want to leave Sattvic. We want to, you might not everybody comes in Sattvic. That's fine. Some people might come in lazy and tired and sleepy-eyed. They come in Tamastic. But with the practice, we should all be seeking that pure, peaceful Sattvic state. And that's not going to be able to happen from those other things. So it doesn't really matter how you walk in. You walk in turbulent, you can walk out turbulent. This is one shining, dividing point between yoga and those other workout or fitness or just stretching routines and regimens is that the yoga has that effect. It can actually have like a deep psychological effect on us if we do approach it for that. And if we are taught how to approach it for that. So there you go. That's my thing today. Hope you have a great day, guys. Thank you for tuning in again. I don't know. Maybe I'll do like the beach. Maybe I'll do the beach one. I was scrolling through the beach settings, but yeah. Some of them are a little too windy. All right. Have a beautiful day, guys. Peace.